Amazon is in the building. They said they're doing 30,000 people. They're going to go ahead and put them out on the street. Check it out.
We're also following breaking news out of the tech world tonight that you may have heard about. Amazon set to announce massive layoffs, as many as 30,000 corporate job cuts. That, according to Reuters. CNBC reporting it will be the largest cuts in the company's history. NBC's Christine Romans joins us now on set. Christine, so great to see you and talk to you. This is a huge headline, and it's sort of wild because it's one of the biggest companies in the world. And if they're cutting 30,000 people, what does that say for other companies across the country?
And they're cutting things like advertising and HR and cloud. They're cutting white-collar jobs. 10% of their corporate office jobs here is what these reports are. Amazon, of course, not commenting, but these are supposed to start tomorrow. These pink slips will start tomorrow. And I think it shows you that
So tomorrow is today, just to let y'all know.
using AI for cost cutting is essentially the holy grail for these big companies. They want to use artificial intelligence to figure out how to take out layers in the office, how to make people more productive, and how to move some of this work to other functions, AI functions.
And we were just talking about AWS, I think, last week with your colleague Brian Chung here. Explain to our viewers, this is sort of scary. We don't want to scare people out there, but Amazon is a tech company. They're obviously invested in AI. We just had Vicky Nguyen here talking about AI in the stock rooms. This is different, though, because they have the technology to do AWS, but they're also cutting through AI. And it's kind of putting those two ideas together, right?
Yeah, and it's really interesting to me. They grew like gangbusters through the pandemic, added all these workers, and then realized they had too many workers, and they cut 27,000. I think in 2022, they had a huge downsizing, and this is on top of that. This is even bigger than that, Tom, if it's indeed 30,000 jobs.
And it's your understanding it's because of AI? They're figuring out jobs that AI can take, some of them?
They're cutting costs. Andy Jassy, the CEO this summer, in a memo to employees in June, said they would do everything, and they would use any technology they could to cut costs.
Andy Jassy is the former CEO or the former head of Amazon Web Services. It was the profit driver of everything Amazon related, right? And so when you think about this and you start to really make it make sense, you have to start putting two and two together. Amazon has been investing vigorously, and anybody that has ever been a stock club with me knows that I break down that the 8 things that you look for when you look to invest in a company. And Amazon I use as an example to illustrate that they don't even pay a dividend. The value of the stock itself is largely the way that they bring shareholder value. And one of the things that happened as soon as they made this announcement is that they had a jump in the stock. Now, some people will say, well, Anton, that doesn't make sense. Why would they do a jump in the stock? Why would the stock go up? Because what they're announcing is their future plans to minimize costs. What's the biggest cost that most companies have? Don't worry about it. I'll tell you what it is. The biggest cost that most companies have are people. People and everything that comes with them, the inefficiencies, the cost to train them, your lawsuits, your complaints and turnover, your whining and inability to do their job, the loss of business because of incompetent people, healthcare coverage, training, modules, you tearing up stuff, stealing, theft. People are the biggest cost for a company. People is the biggest. Humans, human error, human costs, human complaints, human issues, humans being late to the job. Humans are the biggest hurdle for most companies. And if they can figure out how to not deal with humans, then they can increase the value of the company and the profitability of it. And how do you do that? You've been investing for decades into efficiencies, into different experimental technologies, which is now transformed into AI. AI when it comes to your ability to be more efficient. AI when it comes to you actually putting manual labor out to pasture. And so y'all used to be able to go up and The company, when everything get tough, all of that whining, all of that complaining that y'all used to do. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I don't want to deal with this anymore. What don't you want to deal with? Oh, they working us too hard over at Amazon. They working us too hard. I don't like it. I ain't gonna complain. Okay, so then now y'all ain't got nothing to complain about, right? Now, cool. You complaining, too much turnover, you can't meet rate, you don't want to do what you want to do. The women feel like it's too hard. They want to put you in a separate line with a separate rate for the women to be able to pick boxes. All right, well, cool. Well, now we don't have to worry about that anymore. Right? Now we can move a little bit different.
This is something that the companies all across the board have been doing since the pandemic era, what they call overhiring. A lot of these companies saw the growth in how people were relying on tech during the pandemic when they were home. They were obviously ordering a lot more from Amazon because they didn't want to go to the grocery store if they were at-home workers. And the company hired to accommodate that. And now they don't need as many people. But I heard your earlier point, Carol, about AI. I think that's part of it. But I also think that part of it is when these companies go through periods of opportunity where they see a lot of growth, they're seeing that trend line and they're hiring for the future. We're seeing it right now with AI. These companies are building out data centers. They don't know if they're actually going to need all of that capacity long term, but they better make that deal today or else they might not have it when they need it. So we do see a lot of anticipatory investment from these tech companies over
That's a nice word. Anticipatory. I like that.
time that sometimes they need to pull back on. In big tech, we haven't seen as big a pullback as we have in the past few years since the pandemic. It's really been a change in the culture, this drive for efficiency, for reducing bureaucratic bloat. And it's not just a line they're throwing out there. We are seeing my colleague Matt Day wrote a really interesting story I encourage everyone to read about AWS and how AWS was at the forefront of cloud, really inventing the market. And in the era of AI, they have fallen back in preference for startups. They had that big outage we talked about last time I was on this show, and some of the employees are attributing that to bloat, to this bureaucratic culture, too many people working on the same things and things not getting done fast enough. So I think, although I hate to see people lose their jobs, I think that is where a lot of this is coming from, the idea that we need these companies in the age of AI to be working faster to try to catch their competitors.
What do I talk about? What is the name of too many people doing the same job and having to merge these different business practices together? What do I call it? What do I tell you that corporate America calls this? Don't worry about it. I'll tell you. It's called synergies. Okay. When a company is looking to make sure that they have synergy, they are trying to minimize it. Okay. So the best way for me to put this is, let's say, for example, Capital One decided that they wanted to purchase Discover, right? Remember when that happened? But they said, but nothing has changed. And so they sent out an email to the people and they said, but nothing has changed. Okay? We're not changing anything. It's going to be the same. You're going to get the same Discover app on the phone, same Capital One, just better services. So what they would do is they would purchase the company, not because they didn't do the same thing, but because they wanted their customer base. They wanted their ability to be able to process credit cards a certain way, right? They wanted the infrastructure. They were standing up certain things, but they didn't necessarily need your workers. We already have our workers, right? When I was working at Flagstar and I had retired in 2019, and so I was working at Comerica Bank, right? And I left Comerica Bank and I retired in 2019 before the pandemic. And so everything has been going really well and all of that. And I had a buddy of mine, and he was working at Flagstar, and he said, hey, why don't you come in and check out what it is that we got going on, and so on and so forth. So I got my visitor pass and all of that. And then next thing you know, they was trying to recruit me to offer me a crazy bag. So I go in there, and we worked there. And I only expected to be there for a year, but it wound up going on much longer because, Anton is a bag chaser, and I'm not leaving any money on the table. And what happened during that journey, right? What happened during that journey? One of the things that happened during that journey was we wound up merging with New York Community Bank. All right. And at the time, I couldn't tell you guys because I didn't want to get doxxed, and I didn't want everybody to be calling my job because I held black women accountable. Oh my God, you need to fire him. So I kept that under wraps, and it was real under wraps. And I worked with a whole lot of Indians, and Indians weren't necessarily privy to my information or what it is that I got going on. And so nobody was noticing me on the internet until after I had already left the company. And so I retired in 2024, which I should have retired like a year and a half earlier than that again, but they extended me. But one of the things that happened throughout that process was we merged with New York Community Bank. And what also happened was Mr. Cooper. Now, some of you guys may know what Mr. Cooper is. Mr. Cooper is a mortgaging company. So they issue mortgages, whatever, so on and so forth. You can buy mortgages as a financial company. But Mr. Cooper decided that they wanted to buy the majority of our loans. They wanted to purchase a segment of our loans, a block of our loans, but they already had their infrastructure. They already had their own app. They already had a way for you to be able to pay mortgages. They already had this. They already had that. So what they did was they poached several different people, and they made offers. And then they said, well, what about you? And I said, nope. Why? Because you guys are going to be trying to get me to come in, and I never agreed to that. You're going to try to get me to come in, and I never agreed to that. So they says, okay. Now, what they didn't know was that I was planning on retiring again a year ago, but I couldn't stop getting them bags. So eventually they offered me a big payday, and it wound up working out. But what I found out also was as some of those poached employees went over to work for New York Community Bank, Mr. Cooper, so on and so forth, right? Because banks sell assets all the time. They sell loans, they buy different banks, all of the different stuff. Somebody said Fifth Third bought Comerica. Absolutely, right? So what happens is they have synergy. And what that is we want your customers, we want your people, we want certain things to fill certain positions, but we already have our own infrastructure, and we don't need two different applications doing the same thing. Even though we are merging with you or we are buying with you, we may not necessarily need that girl over there that's doing secretary work because we got our own secretaries, we got our own call center over here, right? So a company can merge, but then they basically are just taking different parts of the company, or more importantly, in the case of Amazon, you start to see an overlap of responsibilities that now can be combined, and you can either have natural attrition, which means that you're naturally going to have people leaving the company, so on and so forth, or you can be in a position to where they lay people off because they are too bloated and they don't need all of these people doing the same thing at the same time. Twitter. When Elon Musk bought Twitter, he was like, so y'all niggas just walking around doing nothing, huh? Everybody was on the phone. Come with me, guys, as I go throughout my day. And let me show you what I do at Twitter. Elon Musk was watching it before he bought the company. He said, yeah, she got to go. She got to go. They had masseuse. They had never turned a profit. None of that stuff. Same thing. Different people. You notice how y'all don't see none of those videos now? Come with me today as I go work at Microsoft. Come with me today as I take you around my Google campus. You don't see none of that. That was everywhere. Come to work with me, guys, as I go and work for the federal government. Now all of that is stopped. Niggas are staying quiet. They trying to hide out in the corner. Hey, they get done laying everybody off yet? Okay, all right. We safe? Okay, I'm going to just stay quiet over here. People stop recording on their phones with their work uniforms on, so you don't know where they work no more. Everybody just shut up. Everybody just shut up. Come with me while I go and work. And you know what? Lunchtime, I'm gonna take a 3-hour lunch. I'm gonna get my nails done. I'm gonna go take a swim class. I'm gonna pick up my kids, feed them, and then I'll go back to the office for 30 minutes, and then I'll leave for home. You don't see none of that no more. You don't see none of that. No. All of that. Stop. Everybody shutting up now. Everybody quiet. But now that Amazon and several other companies, I'm going to tell y'all where one of the plays are, okay? No, I'm going to write it down and give it to my pack chasers. I'm not going to get that out. I wish I can give you all that play, but I'm not. And I'm going to talk about it in the bag chasers. When it comes to which companies you should work for and what you should look for and how you can make a whole lot of money. I'll give that to my bag chasers. Nope, not giving it to the general public. But yeah, synergy. So they're leveraging AI, and AI is not only helping them to be more efficient, but those that participate and learn it, a lot of them are taking on more responsibility at their companies. So there's going to be a hiring freeze in addition to the layoffs that I see happening over at Amazon.
A headline like this, Sarah, and I immediately think back to the prominent other headlines that I saw in the last week about big layoffs or mid-sized layoffs at a tech company. Meta Platforms laying off 600 people who work in AI. And then Target, retail, not necessarily tech, but Amazon straddles that, right? And we don't know the details of these layoffs yet. But Target to cut 1,800 roles, 8% of its headquarters team. Taken together, is there a story with these three headlines?
Well, I think that the Meta headline and the Amazon headline are certainly related because they're all attributed to this idea of trying to move faster, to cut a lot of the, maybe unnecessary workforce, maybe workforce that they do expect one day will be augmented by AI tools or are already starting to be augmented by AI tools. But like we've said before, we don't know if the AI tools are actually making people more efficient.
I'm not going to wait for a live stream to give you all this. I'm actually going to just create a separate video and drop it in addition to the live stream that we do in the next couple of days for the bag chasers.
It's more of a hope that will be the case. Certainly in coding, it's had a big role. I'm not sure, because we haven't been able to confirm the report just yet. I'm not sure if these are roles in coding. When it comes to Meta and AI, it's really interesting because they are still shuffling around the leadership and therefore the direction of this very expensive super intelligence team that they pulled together over the course of a few months earlier this year. And it seems like that is something that could give the potential of a slowdown for that company, but a lot is riding on Meta's AI efforts. Both companies, Amazon and Meta, I think we are going to have a lot to learn from this week in their earnings, which are coming Meta on Wednesday, Amazon Thursday. So I think that
we're going to do a live stream probably Thursday, y'all.
Yeah, totally.
So that is what's happening over at Amazon and several other companies. They are having, and this is different, way different than 2008. 2008 is nothing that you'll ever experience like 2008.